O great mystery, teach me to honor the laws of sacred space, the customs and traditions of every creed and race. Great mystery, teach me to develop the talents that I own and to behave with reverence in another's home. Great mystery, teach the child in me to accept with grace the part of sacred mystery found in every space. The idea of sacred space has been one of the foundations of Native American philosophy throughout time. We see all life forms as having their own medicine wheel or life cycle. Each life form, from a stone person to a cloud person to a standing person, has space that deserves respect. Every creature being has its own territory and respects the territory of other animals. Two-leggeds also have a personal space that, if respected, becomes sacred space. Nature teaches us how to know ourselves in the purest way possible. If we listen and watch, every lesson of human living is given by animals, the change of the wind, Father Sky, Mother Earth, and all our relations. Each aspect of our world has its own space in which to create. If that space is respected by others, growth continues in harmony. Hi folks, my name's Marisa, and I'm happy to share with you my experience and understanding of creating a sacred space and honoring the sacredness of all our relations. I was first introduced to Native Indian American philosophy through a very dear soul sister, Joanne Radis, many moons ago. I remember the first ceremony holding a full moon. I worked so hard to clean a space in the veld, a beautiful circle where we could meet with drums and singing. And while I was cleaning the space, there were two eagles that were flying high above and just like blessing that space. I then knew that this was a remembrance for my soul. I do know that I have had lives where I was in that philosophy. But it's not just about Native Indian American, it's also African. The African tradition, there's a golden thread that flows throughout. Truth cannot be contained in a box. And so if we look around at deep African tradition, at Australian Aborigines, the same truth emerges, the respect and the sanctity of all our relations, recognizing that everything outward is a reflection of an inner awareness and understanding, of an inner dialogue we have between our body, our mind, our emotion, and our spirit. The full moon is a special time because the full moon reminds us of our wholeness, even though sometimes we cannot see our whole light because we may be experiencing a different cycle in our life. That wholeness is always there. And that wholeness does not mean perfection. We confuse that. That wholeness comes from acknowledging that we are made up of different parts, body, mind, emotion, and spirit. And that each part is sacred. Each part has a role to play. And so if we look at nature, nature is the closest we can find to connecting to God. Nature has been around far longer than religion was. Religion thinks that it owns God. God existed long before religion was made. And nature has always been the closest foreverness, the closest energy that is unconditional and unlimited. And therefore, even now in today's time, if we connect to nature, it is filled with that free energy, unconditional and unlimited energy. I mean, have you noticed the sun shines on everybody? The Pope, the priest, the prostitute, on everybody. And that's why we can go to nature, and nature will teach us if we are open, if we are willing to see. And nature has always been my personal teacher. Whenever I am stuck, whenever I am trying to conquer something, I go out into nature. And nature will always provide me a gift, a lesson, a symbol that will help me to go within. So my first ever gift from Joanne Radis was a beautiful set of cards, the Sacred Path cards. And it's a beautiful set of cards, that from which I've read to you in the beginning of this talk. And it really introduces you to the different ways and aspects of creating a sacred space. So what does a sacred space mean? A sacred space means that recognition, as I said, of your connectiveness with all of creation, with God, with Mother Earth, Father Sky, Grandmother Moon, and every element, everything in life, the directions, the elements, the standing people, which are the trees, the stone people, which are the rocks, the two-legged ones is humans, the four-legged ones are the animals, and then there's the flying animals, and there's the insect world, etc., etc. It's really acknowledging our connection and the sacredness of all of that. And so when we create a sacred space, it can be a small little space in your house where you acknowledge those things as a reflection of that inner relationship we have. We have fire, earth, and air, and water within our bodies. And so it is there. We can't deny it. So when we create a sacred space, we create a space of beauty with no condition, with no judgment, that reflects that wholeness for ourselves. And we all have a different connection at a different time of our life. It always changes. So create a small space. Make sure that you have something that represents earth. It could be a rock. It could be something of the earth that has been given to you, that you have picked up. Have something of water there, perhaps a bowl of water, perhaps a beautiful shell also represents water. Have fire there. Have a candle. Have a floating candle. If you can, make a fire outside. Have the sacred space outside when you do a ceremony. Air. Have air there. Air is normally represented by a feather. So choose a feather you may have. If you don't have one, go outside. You will be amazed to see how Mother Earth will present you with a little feather. It doesn't matter how big or small. It is all significant for you. It is very frequency specific to each one of us. And so we try and create that. And whatever has meaning for you, whatever has brought you an understanding of yourself. So for me, my sacred space is forever changing. Whatever I am busy working through, conquering, owning, reclaiming in myself, I have different things that represent that process. So sometimes I will walk in nature and I'll find a bone, or I'll walk in nature and I'll find grass that has been made like a little nest. And whatever, I'm always observant of what is around me. I'm always observant of how nature is trying to guide me, speak to me, and remind me of who I really am. And so in this sacred space, you can put whatever you want, whatever is meaning for you. It could even be something of your ancestors. If you have lost a mother, a father, a beloved, and there is something of them that you want to put there. Whatever it may be, this is your sacred space. It's a reflection of your connection on the inside. The most beautiful teachings I love about the Native American living, the sacred path, is the tremendous humbleness and respect for all the sacredness of life. And everything in life is a ceremony for them, because that keeps the ego at bay. That keeps them humble. If you have to have a ritual of acknowledging the greatness, of acknowledging the sacredness of everything, you would start treating things much better. I'm very blessed to have had connections with Robbie Warren and Mary Standing Otter and Vaughan Harris. Those are people who really walk a sacred path, that have also introduced me to more deeper meaning, ritual and ceremony. I'm definitely not an expert, but it's about your intention. It's about your willingness to acknowledge your connection to all of life, all the relations within you. It's about allowing yourself to become so humble and to respect everything in life, the fire, the earth, the ground, whatever it is that is around you. It's about acknowledging your connectiveness. And that's what we're having to do right now with this time that we're experiencing, is that we are reclaiming the sanctity of human life. And not just of human life, of nature. Acknowledging that without nature, we are nothing. We become so arrogant. We become so arrogant, and it's our arrogance and our greed and our ego that have created this mess that we are in. And nature has a wonderful way of humbling you. I always love going to the sea and just sitting and watching and observing people walking into the ocean to have some fun. And you see these ladies dressed up in the best, most expensive costumes or bikinis, and still makeup on and hair. And as they go in, they try and be in control. And that wave just gives them one clap. And it's makeup and their boobs are almost hanging out. It's like life just claps you out of that and wakes you up. And then that innocence and that joy comes from within. It does not need support. The spirit does not need support from your ego. Not at all. Not that ego is bad. That is who we are. That is our individuality. Yet we must not forget our spirit. We must not forget our own sacredness, our connectiveness to a greater being. So when we do ceremony, we try and put on our humble shoes, and we really acknowledge spirit, and we create a space where spirit can come to the fore. It's like a ceremony, it's like a ritual, it's like a meditation. So most times we will smudge. And smudging is done in different ways. We normally use dried herbs, sage, sweetgrass, or rosemary, or lavender, and it is burnt. And we use that smoke to smudge. As you will know, throughout life, we accumulate stuff of this world that attaches itself to us. It's a natural thing, but it's our responsibility to clean our space, to make ourselves pure, to make ourselves presentable, and to make ourselves like a hollow bone. It's like I always explain to people, is like, if you could see all the drops of coffee wasted on a coffee shop floor in one day, and if you had to leave that floor for a week, it would be filthy. Because everyone that comes in has a little drop of coffee that they mess somewhere. And that is almost like it is as we move in and around and we connect to people, we take on some of their vibration, we take on some of their worries, especially if we are empaths, we feel their stuff and we sometimes take some of their stuff. It is our responsibility to clean our space. So we clean our space, the space around our bodies. We clean it with those herbs. If you do not have that, you can use incense. If you do not have incense, you can even use a finely tuned little bell, and you can just ring the bell right around your body. You can even use a rattle. That will also clean the space around you. We create a fire, if possible, if you can make a fire. We try and make it as natural as possible without using paraffin and all these things. We try and respect nature, and we honor everything we do. We recognize that we are working with a relation. And so we treat everything with that sacredness. So we start a fire, and then with great respect, we call in the 7 directions. 7 directions? Yes. There is east and south and west and north. Everything above you, everything below you, and everything within you. Those are the 7 directions. You may face those directions. We always start at the east. That is the place where all beginning starts. And as we face the east, we acknowledge the east and the, the energy and the blessings and the wisdom that that east brings. And I will go through it for you so that you can get an idea. So when we face the east, and we sometimes use a feather because we are cleaning the space between ourselves and that direction and calling it in and waving it into our space that we have created. We're creating a circle where we can communicate, where we can show reverence to ourselves and our spirit. And so we invite these directions to be part of this ceremony. The direction of the east is the home of the eagle. The color is yellow. It's a place of illumination and clarity. It's male energy. It is the golden door. It leads to all other levels of awareness and understanding. It's where Grandfather Sun greets each morning. It marks a time of new freedoms that come from wiping the mud from your eyes and seeing within the eye of the eagle. Then we have the direction of south, so we turn to our south and we invite and we call forth and we greet and we honor. The direction of the south is the home of the coyote, the porcupine or the mouse. The color is red. It's the place of innocence, of faith, of trust and humility. It's child energy, the child within. Laughter is its giveaway. It's the place where physical life begins, playfulness, innocence. It's the place that needs no support from the ego. It's where we balance work and play. The direction of the west is the home of the bear, the cave. It is where we go within. The color is black, black as the void. All potential exists there. It's where all the answers live. It's the place of introspection. It's the female energy, the power of woman, the womb of the woman. We enter into that stillness. We digest questions. We explore. And we let the answers emerge. It's the place where dreams live. It's the place of all tomorrows and future. It's the ability to complete our goals, to acknowledge our inner strengths and our inner power, and to find our own truth. And then we end with the direction of the north. It is the elder energy. It's where the ancestors oversee us. It's the place of wisdom and of gratitude. It's the home of the buffalo or the moose. The color is white. By observing and listening and reflecting our experiences, we can draw from it wisdom, peace, forgiveness, and humility, and evolution. It's about inner knowing, and it's about giving thanks. And then we look upwards and we acknowledge Grandmother Moon in her greatness. We acknowledge Grandfather Sun. We acknowledge the Cloud Nation and the Star Kingdom. And we acknowledge the roof that it supplies us. We look down, we touch the earth, and we say thank you to Mother Earth for being our foundation, for being the source of our roots, for giving us nurturance and sustenance. And we give thanks to her. And then we go within, to that space within, and we recognize our connection to the Great Spirit and to all that is. The Native American Indians refer to God as, "Oh, Great Spirit." There are other words as well, but that's one that is used often by them. And a ritual for them to acknowledge that sacred greatness, that divinity, is aho, aho. Aho to Mother Earth, aho to all our relations. So you will often hear them saying aho afterwards. It's like a so be it. It's like a amen. It's about a reverence. Often an offering is made to all of our relations, and mostly tobacco or corn is used as a giving back to it. And you can do that if you have. But as I said, it's about your intention. It's not about having all these things. All of these things are symbols. All of it already exists in yourself. Give of yourself. What are you giving up? What are you giving to? Ask yourself about that. And then it's about bringing in rhythm. Rhythm is part of our beings. If you put your hand on your chest, you will hear and you will feel your heart beating. We all have that beat already in us. We have become so suppressed. We have become so limited in expressing that rhythm. We are a very shy nation. We are very afraid of giving our voice out there, making a sound. We are embarrassed. We are self-conscious. And those of you who know Vaughan will know how he always pushes us to have a voice. Come on, just give your voice. Just make a sound. It's okay. It's not a judgment. It's about freeing that frequency out of your being. And so even if it's just na, 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 just do that. It doesn't matter. But try and allow yourself to move out of a comfort zone, a limitation. Sometimes we just play with a rattle. That starts a rhythm, moving, just letting that rhythm fill your being. And in that sacred dance and voice, we can use drumming if we want to. We can use a frame drum, we can use a djembe, we can use whatever we feel comfortable with, but it has to be done with reverence and sacredness. We must not allow ego to come into play. It's not about showing off. It's not about bragging. It's not about... There's no space needed for ego in this space. This is about the reverence and acknowledgement of your sacredness within your being. And I really want to challenge you and encourage you to do a prayer where you acknowledge all your relations, from Father Sky and Grandfather Sun and Grandmother Moon, and to Mother Earth, to the ground, to the stone people, the rocks who hold all the knowledge of thousands and millions of years, to the standing people, the trees, to acknowledging the air that we breathe, the air that blows away, that allows seed to be thrown onto the ground, that blows away a season, to water and the purity of water and the water that flows within our beings, to the fire that we make, and the fire that is within us, is within our soul. It's the ignition of our fire in our soul. Let it be ignited. It's about acknowledging all other creatures, all the four-legged ones, the buck, the dogs, the cats, the pigs, whatever animals they are. It's about acknowledging the flying insects, the flying animals, the birds, who are such beautiful teachers to us, especially the owls and the eagles. They bring us such deep messages. We think about the creepy crawlies. They're all around. And while you're doing the ceremony, be aware of what is in your space. Look at what is their medicine. On Google, you can say what is mouse medicine, what, and you'll get all the answers. There are beautiful books available. Nature is our teacher. It really shows us where we are when we get stuck. So make use of your observation of nature. Let's acknowledge the elementals, the fairies, the gnomes, the elves, those beings that live within the earth, that take care of our earth, that we don't always see. Some of us know, some of us have seen, but let's acknowledge them and invite them there. Let's acknowledge our ancestors in our bloodline, our ancestors of ancient wisdom beings and guardians of this earth. Let us acknowledge those alien beings that oversee us and have an influence on our life. And all of those things. And you will feel so great when you acknowledge all of your connectiveness to all of your relations. May this full moon in 2020, April, during this time of the pandemic and lockdown, may Grandmother Moon, with her mysterious moods, may she ignite the remembrance of our wholeness, that we are already great, that sometimes we go through seasons, we go through change, but that the light is always there, but that we allow things to mask that light, like half a moon and new moon. The full moon is still there. So let us allow our fullness to come forth. Let us allow all the parts of ourselves to shine forth, and to let us dream of a new world, of a new earth. We have seen what can happen when many human minds come together in focus and intention on the same thing. We can shift energy. So let us all dream of a brave new world. But let us realize that that change must happen within us. That if we want to see the change in the world, it has to start within us. Let us reclaim our humbleness, our respect for ourselves, our respect for money, the sacredness of this physical body, the sacredness of our food. Let's say thank you for our food. Let's start acknowledging and showing gratitude to these things again. Let us respect that there is a divine in each and every one and thing. Let us put our arrogance away. Let us see equality. Let us go for peace. Let us go for the willingness to grow and evolve. Let us focus on peace. Let us focus on enough, on abundance, on trust, on trusting Mother Earth's knowledge on this beautiful planet. Let's trust. Let's invite God's frequency to be part of our lives. Let us not become so arrogant to think that we do not need that great mystery. Let us make space for it in our lives. So I hope that this will help you, and thank you for allowing me to share this with you. I show deep respect to all those who are on a sacred path. It doesn't matter from which country, from which religion, let us acknowledge our divinity and our connectiveness through that. Aho, aho, aho. When you have done your ceremony, always remember to close the ceremony by honoring and giving thanks again to all those directions and elements, and put the fire out and say thank you to all of it. Whether you do this externally, outside, or whether you do this just in the house with a candle, always close your ceremony with gratitude and reverence. Thank you.